The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, here we go, the T.N.F, the Thursday Night Forum. I'm joined by one hell of a lineup tonight. It's a starting lineup to be proud of on the Boise bus. The main man, Mr. Nostalgia, Phil McGinley, and all that good stuff. He joins us tonight, and as well as that, we've got the judge, the Grim Reaper, Mr. Mark Kearney. How the tea's doing?
I'm doing great, mate. Yourself?
Very well, very well. T.N.F, we're kind of mixing up the lineup now. David Logue, our very own Tyson Fury. Is he in retirement? Is he not? He's had more comebacks than, I don't know, someone who comes back a lot. But instead, we're going to just carry on mixing up the lineup in the T.N.F right now. But remember, tonight's not about us. Tonight is about the passengers, because it's you guys who bring up the points, the talking points, questions, anything you want. We'll discuss them all. We give you the keys to the bus, and we look forward to discussing it all with you. What a week it has been yet again. Always stuff to talk about with regards to Celtic. And for the bus, if you can indulge me very briefly, we did our first ever breakfast show yesterday morning, the Breakfast Bar. I woke up at about, 7:20, something like that. I swear to God, I was getting in my bed like this. I'm never, this is the first and last. Just because I promised Johnny we're doing it, and I know he's up, we'll do it today, and that's it. Once I've had a shower, I'm fine, but that was the thoughts running around my brain. But now it's been done. It's been a total success. Way over 700 views, so a big thank you to everyone who's tuned in. It's more content, but it's not always at night. Now we're bringing a wee breakfast show in there. Obviously, we've got loads more to look forward to. The Nostalgia, the Martin O'Neill month carries on tomorrow with Phil. We've obviously got some more PMP this weekend. Livy away, that'll be interesting. And then all the rest of our good shows. I might even do something on Saturday. I'm off Saturday, so it could be one way or the other. Do you know what I mean? I might be fucking in Timbuktu, or I might be up for doing a podcast at some point. You never know with me. Right, before we get started and get stuck right into it, as always, if you haven't hit that like button yet and you're one of the 51 watching live, please do now. Please keep up the comments in there, because that tonight of all nights, when it's the open forum, we need your comments in, because that's what we're going to be chewing the fat over. Also, on top of that, please do give us a wee share on the social medias. It does help us. And if you've not subscribed already, we're only 39 away from 3,000 subscribers in under a year, which, to be completely honest with you, blows my expectations out the water. And I'm going to go back to a title I used to call us, right, which I've just completely made up and is based on zero fact whatsoever, with the fastest growing Celtic fan channel on YouTube. I used to say that, seeing December, January, go, and we are the fastest growing channel. I just made it up. There's absolutely no basis to it at all. I don't know.
When am I going to start growing, boys? I'm going to 4'3".
Anyway, lads, it's been a week where Celtic picked up another point in the Champions League. Sadly, our rivals didn't. Europe, of all the European campaigns in my life from Scottish clubs, I didn't expect that the European superpowers would be casting admiring eyes over to our league for the Glasgow clubs to be joining whatever version of this European Super League they're thinking about next. We will be discussing that as well. But we will start with you two guys' opinion. I've aired mine on 2 shows already, so it's over to you two. Phil, I'll start with you. I know you were at the game on Tuesday. It was a 1-1 draw. What was the sort of mood at Celtic Park that night? Because the mood in the comments seemed to be very mixed. Some people felt we'd done enough to get the 3 points. Others were saying not good enough for this competition, just face it. Take it away, mate.
The mood in the stadium, I felt the atmosphere, they stuck with the players throughout. I thought the atmosphere was quite good for the whole game. I didn't feel like we dropped off at any point because we knew, obviously, on the line, we needed a win at all costs to have any little smidgen of a chance. But wasn't to be in the end. And, I said that after I think I've said that after every game we've played in Europe so far. I think Terry said it the other night on PMP, where you could rerun any PMP that we've done after a European game, and it's pretty much the same sort of dejected mood. You go into the game with a lot of optimism, thinking, yeah, we could do this. We're gonna show people what we're all about here. And it's just not came to pass at all. And it was the same again. A few of the mistakes that have cropped up in every group game so far. Reared their ugly head again. It felt like, they get one chance and they score while we let a load of chances go. And it was just another one of those nights. And it's weird how far we've come in terms of how our home games were always, our strongest point for years in Europe. And then nowadays the home games can be just as bad as the away ones now. Lackluster stuff. And I was encouraged by him playing Giakoumakis and Kyogo together. We've all been shouting out for that. And, at the end of the day, we had heard you speaking about, is this going to be the way going forward? Is it going to be, is Ange going to use it to say, I told you it didn't work? But, what constitutes it not working? Because in the day, Giakoumakis did score a goal at the end of the night. So he did manage to do that. So I wouldn't write it off too early. And I do think we'll see it a few more times this season. Hopefully more than a few. But I think they did okay for that. Good players can play together. Both of them are good players, so they'll find a way. They'll find a way. But
it's the saying that they all use. It's the saying they all use, Mark. You can never have you can never have enough good players. This is not a problem to be able to get good players into your lineup. It should never be something that always has to be one or the other. My favourite or the one in form. But Mark, we've got to say, with that lineup, even yourself, you looked at it and you thought, bar maybe Ralston Juranovic, well I say maybe, bar Ralston, right, and Juranovic, right, bar that. I think that was the 10 names we would have picked. Even yourself, I think that is the 10 names you would have went, fucking hell, this is exciting to see. Ironically, I didn't think we were quite at that rock and roll sort of pace that we've been at other times, albeit, as Phil rightfully points out, the experiment still kind of worked because Giakoumakis does get his goal. Kyogo, who I felt was trying just a bit too hard because he's out of sorts. That's the only thing. I think Kyogo's role was meant to be a lot closer to Giakoumakis, Mark. And I think that's what we have in our head as being quite a formidable sort of proposition for Celtic to have. Kyogo was coming a bit deeper because I think he was just desperate to get touches in the ball. It's just his confidence is a wee bit gone now, right? He's a bit out of sorts. It's not that's not me slagging him off or anything. Every player has dips and forms. It's one of those things. But when you look at that lineup, and this is what we want to touch on, because I've kind of been alluding to it, as Phil says, do you think maybe that game against Shakhtar, because the shackles were off, see what I did there? See what I did? Because the shackles are off, and do you think he's kind of opened the curtain a wee bit as to what phase 2 is going to be, Matt, because I am convinced now. I'll tell you the two things that highlight it for me. When McGregor went out of the team, O'Reilly, not a natural number 6, played number 6, and he's probably more attack-minded than Callum McGregor. Then, when it was a game we had to win if we had any chance of the Europa League in Europe's premier competition, I don't care what anyone says about Shakhtar, it's still a Champions League match where we've not won at home, we've lost the last 7 games in a row at home. He decided to play the unheard of. Only one time has he started these two before in Chaos and Kyogo. Are we seeing maybe a wee hint that Andrew's going to go more gung-ho in the future, Mark? What do you think?
No, I don't think he is. I hope he does. I really do. I really do think that he's. See, the thing about our players is a lot of them are quite, they're flexible, and although they're a striker's a striker, they're flexible in their roles. I think
That's true.
Our front line completely can play in different positions within the striking role. Like, for instance, Haksabanovic can play on the left, play through the middle, play on the right, and he can play a number 10. So even when you see his name on the team sheet, I'm not entirely sure where they're playing. Even when I see Jota and Abada, Jota and Maida playing, I'm not entirely sure who's playing left, who's playing right. It's like, I do think the Giakoumakis and the Kyogo partnership the other day there, we've seen a kind of different side to Kyogo, because I think this season he's not had much of the ball at all. I mean, there was one match I seen he only had 4 touches of the ball the full match, and I think he's been kind of drifting out of games quite a lot. And I think the first half and Tuesday night was the most I've seen him involved in a very long time. So I saw a different side of Kyogo, and that could well be that this evolution you're talking about, maybe the two of them can play, but not as really an out-and-out striker, but the two of them on the park at the same time, I think it's a great idea. Also gives you an option, if things aren't going right, to go 2 up top without having to make a sub. Because I think right now we're making subs for the sake of it. I can't wait to get rid of the 5 subs, actually, because I thought it was a good idea, but now it's just a case of bringing on 3 players at one time just to randomly mix it up. It doesn't really do it for me. I think it's become a bit of a trope now, to be quite honest with you. I don't really like it anymore. But no, I'm hoping this is the next phase for Ange, because I do feel like there's this team for me, if we're on a journey with this team, I still feel like we're in the very, very Neil Lennon's embryotic stage. To be quite honest with you, I feel like that's one of his statements. I feel like this team, if we keep this team together and this is a journey, I feel like it's just starting, because there's so much more development in this team and Angie's philosophy within this team. And I've spoke before about Angie's in-game management in private with you guys, and I feel like for us to progress in Europe, we need to start doing a bit more experimentation in league matches when the games is won. You know what I mean?
Agree.
And that might mean taking risks. See if we're 3-0 up, it might mean taking risks, i.e., right, let's see what these two could do together. Let's give them 45, let's give them 40 minutes. I mean, we had a game last week against Hibs, and it was 3-0 at half time. And I get Angie's philosophy. The game's won, so rest players. I'm a big advocate for resting players. We've got a big game coming up, but you can't have it both ways. If we're going to experiment and we're going to try new things, we're going to have to do it in the league before we can go out and try it abroad. So we're going to have a lot of games this season where the game's got to be over after half an hour, 40 minutes. I think we're going to be scoring a lot of goals again. So I think it's about experimenting, trying new formations, trying new partnerships, and I think for me that includes Haksabanovic getting a lot of game time. I think this guy could be key to us the rest of this season and next season.
Well, Phil, Mark leads us on a brilliant debate, because in my mind I'm thinking about competition for places. Now, we love discussing this on the bus, and we always have to caveat it, and we've had to do this since I think it was January. We've had to do this. If we have a preference of one, it's not a criticism of the other. It's because we rate them both while having the debate in the first place, for fuck's sake. So, I think there's a few positions of the park that have got really hot competition right now. And I think there's areas we can still strengthen. In fact, you can always strengthen every area if you're ambitious enough, okay? But I think right now, whilst the Kyogo Chaos debate has been fantastic, right? It's been brilliant. And for me, right now, he is undeniably Giakoumakis, our number one striker. And I think what we've seen was the two sides of the argument we've kind of, we've been creating on the bus over the past month or so, where do we think Kyogo gets favouritism? Yes. Do we think that's why he found a way to play him? Yes. Do we think Giakoumakis is the number one striker? Yes. Is that why Giakoumakis started as a striker? So I think Giakoumakis started the game up front because remember I used to always say, give him no choice, Ange. Give him no choice, Gio. Just Gio, no that Gio. Giakoumakis, give him no choice. Force his hand into having to play you because of your goals. Well, Ange's hand's been forced. We alluded to the fact we think he does a wee thing with Kyogo. He loves him. Do you know what I mean? He's his favourite player. He didn't want to take him out the team for the Champions League. That seems abundantly clear. Mark's always said Kyogo's a guaranteed starter in the Champions League. So that has led to what we wanted. The two of them got in the team. So we can't complain about that. But whilst that competition's very healthy up top, and maybe Kyogo will adapt to being in that number 10 and getting closer, Haksabanovic on the left has been absolutely dynamic. He has been an excellent signing for Celtic. And I was so confused by the terms of the signing, Phil, at the start. It was only actually, I think last week, one of you confirmed to me, no, he's on a 5-year deal. I couldn't work out whether he was on a loan with a 1.7 million obligation. I don't know what the script is. Apparently, he's here for 5 years either way. So that's all good. But Haksabanovic's preferred position is that left. And on the left is one of our record signings in our history in Jota, the man who started this season in sparkling form. The guy who always, I think, looks of a level that he can compete at Champions League, at the Champions League level. I think he's shown enough in the 5 games. A lot of them have, by the way, because we've had a lot of good spells. But, even his goal, that was a beautiful finish for Jota away against, it was Shakhtar away.
Leipzig.
Was it Leipzig?
Jota scored against Leipzig.
Oh, sorry. I knew that. But I think Jota and Haksabanovic, if we're going to be seeing slight preferential treatment for Kyogo, and we're having a bit of fun with this. Yeah. But if that means that he's got to be in that number 10 role where Haksabanovic had occupied before, once Jota gets back to full fitness, which will be soon, you've then got a real headache there between Haksabanovic and Jota on that left. And this is where Mark might have a point, Phil. Maybe the time is right to go. It's great having a philosophy. The philosophy doesn't have to change. The shape might have to. Are we maybe, I think there's players in there forcing Ange's hand. And do you know what? I think he kind of likes it because his eyes are always firmly focused, I think, on Celtic from midfield to front as opposed to at the back.
Yeah, it's Haksabanovic so far hasn't really put in a bad performance in every, when he's been subbed off, we feel he's been quite unlucky. The first game that he ever started was a Champions League game where he was very crucial to the goal that we scored against Shakhtar away. And then he was hooked off at half-time, and that sort of classic bring my heat on at half-time tactic that we've seen about 5 times already this season. So Haksabanovic always seems to be the one that draws the short straw here because he ain't doing much wrong. No. And, it's good to have competition in all the different positions around the park, so it'll make everybody better. So he's definitely, as you said about Giakoumakis, force Ange's hand. In Giakoumakis' case, score goals, you're a striker, which he does. His goal ratio is obscene at the moment. So rightfully so, he's forced Ange's hand and he's got to start him. But I think Haksabanovic, is it just purely it's always the left side for him, or is he one you think that can adapt to the right? We know Jota's went down the right sometimes as well. But he seems to be stronger cutting in from the left onto his right foot.
I feel that argument's been. I think that argument for me has been sown by the start of this season. I think Jota, once he got his permanent deal, it's like there'll be not terms of the contract. I would say it's in the contract, right? There's got to be conversations you have to persuade me. And am I going to be playing my preferred position here? Because believe you me, my agent spoke to X, Y, and Z, and I can, pull this deal anytime I want. I think he's had assurances he'll play in his favourite position, which I don't mind because I think he's an elite player. And Phil, I think the debate for him on the right's over now, don't you?
Aye, it looks like it, but then that leaves the whole, well, who is the strongest
know.
on the right? Because
I know.
on current form, if you're going by the last month or so, James Forrest is probably our best on form at the minute, which nobody saw coming at the start of the season. I mean, when he came on the other night, I thought he was bloody good. When he came on, he was getting stuck into tackles, which you never see from James Forrest. He was proper, like, committed, trying to win the ball back. He's like a man, possessed. Like, he's had a real lease of life in the last month. Fair play to him, but yeah, when it comes to that side at the moment, it's ahead of Abada right now would be James Forrest, but it'll chop and change. It'll chop and change on that side throughout the season.
Yeah.
Forrest will have a dip, of course, right? Because right now he's in a purple patch, and Abada will get it back eventually. And over the next few months, we've only got domestic football now. This is really going to make or break some of these guys, because there was a few theories going around after some of these European nights where we'd go to a domestic game at the weekend and it would be a bit lackluster. And a few theories around that, maybe the players are like, they've got the taste of the big game when it comes to playing a Motherwell at the weekend or a St Johnstone. It's like,
another 3 times in some cases.
Yeah. So if you want that big Champions League night back again, we've got to win this league. So you're going to need to turn in performances, and this is your chance. Show us how much you want it. Show us how much you want that Champions League football again over the next few months. Go out there and put a performance in against all these teams like St Mirren and stuff like that. So we'll see what it comes out in the next few months if it makes or breaks some of them. Because it's you say 3 times you could be potentially paying some of these teams between now and the end of the season. So we'll see what their attitude is for it. But I think Angel, drill it into them. Look, you enjoyed those nights against Real Madrid. You enjoyed those nights against Leipzig. Well, if you want it again, there's only one thing you've got to do. Make sure you win this title. Yep, got to.
No, I enjoyed your input there, Phil, and that's absolutely fair. What I do find, just before we move on to the next topic, we're going to talk about, obviously, Celtic's performances in Europe. See what you've just done subconsciously, though, is every player's pigeonholed into this position, because we can all imagine exactly the formation Ange plays.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder if the way forward, when you've got that many players in that midfield to front areas playing so well and so in form, could it be that there's more positions available there? I don't know. It just seems like it's all very much like, and I'm the same, by the way. I can't see him changing the formation either, to be honest. But I agree with what Mark's saying. There might be times when if you're 3-0 at half time at home, how the fuck is it only the second time we've seen Kyogo and Chaos start together and it's a Champions League game? Don't tell me there's not been opportunities this season for far more minutes with that sort of a duo playing together. So anyway, we'll move on, because European competition, Mark, is something that is very difficult for us to gauge at Celtic right now. There's a few arguments to it that I want to discuss, because we'll start with your take on it before the ball was kicked. And you were very downbeat about what Celtic's chances were. You didn't expect us to get many wins, if any wins at all. And to be honest, your opinion on it at the time felt harsh, felt negative. Turns out it was just realistic. And you were spot on. You were bang on the money, whilst a lot of commenters, fan media, etc., who have banged drums about this being the revolution, who have been excited about the group, myself included. I felt we were right in with a chance of qualifying from the group. Now it's a case of, you can see the progress made. Well, if you expect us to get through, is that really progress? But Mark, the reason I'm bringing this up is because reality bites sometimes, and Europe is a tough, tough school. Mm-hmm. It's just been reported about 2 hours ago that now, with obviously the collapse of the potential Super League, remember, for 2021, where the clubs are doing the dirty, that's how it's being portrayed. Although I'm not so sure UEFA can ever take a moral high ground on fucking anything, by the way. Let's get that abundantly clear as well. So, I find that a wee bit naughty as well. But a few clubs never actually disbanded that Super League. The English clubs all backed down because the Premier League is their master, and there's so much money in that compared to the other leagues. Like, the disproportion in what their percentage of revenue these clubs is, Mark, is frightening. I'll give you a prime example. Bournemouth, it wasn't this spell they were in the Premier League. It was about 3-4 years ago. Remember Burnley were playing Aberdeen? I'm sure it was around this time. This is when I read the stat. Bournemouth, who were also in the Premier League at that time, had less season ticket holders than Aberdeen, who were about to play Burnley, and yet turned over 100 million quid that year.
Oh, no doubt. No
Right?
doubt.
So that tells you how lopsided the TV revenue is. So the Premier League clubs have bowed to the master. However, what I wasn't aware of was Barcelona, Real Madrid, and is it AC Milan's the other club? I think it's AC Milan or Juve. They're all still in. They've not given up on this idea.
They'll take the court.
So what they are now doing is considering opening this up. What other clubs would bring value to this competition? Now the EPL looks like a closed shop. And by the way, if this was to gather momentum again, those EPL clubs that fucking turned their back on it once will do the dirty again. Rest assured. That goes without saying. They'll be keeping a very close eye on it. But what it's meant is it's opened up the door a wee bit. The door's kind of ajar, and they're now considering clubs with global fan bases like Celtic to be involved. Obviously, the Ugly Sisters lucky to get fucking partnered with us, and that's one of those things. Unfortunately, you come as a duo when you sell your brand as the old firm. And Celtic do that as much as Rangers. Whether people want to admit that or not is up to them. Now, where would Celtic find themselves though in a competition such as a European Super League? Okay, level playing field money-wise, Mark, right? But this would be something that would take one hell of a leap of faith, because once you walk out that league, you are potentially closing yourself off it. Although, to be fair, Rangers would have a strong argument of going, they don't actually kick you out. You'll get back in. So maybe there is, history to say we would get back in if the league were to fall apart. But I think the argument for us joining the EPL in the past, Mark, was always we'd sell another 30,000 season tickets a year. We would be a superpower there with that money. And I agree with that. But you also know the Premier League ain't going anywhere. So that would be that regular cash flow. If we were to join something like this European Super League, Mark, that could fall apart within a couple of years. It might not work. Then where are you? If you've got this brand new main stand that you've got on a fucking crazy loan deal that's cost fortunes, a TV deal's plummeted and you're owing millions out and you've got guys there on 150 grand a week. So I think Celtic would need to be we know they're conservative when it comes to spending cash anyway, let's be honest. You could give them £1 billion and they'd still be fucking haggling over John McGinn, right? But I think if we were to enter that territory, there's been a bit of a wake-up call with the Champions League that would be a very tough school for us to be doing week in, week out.
Oh, definitely, mate. It's a wee bit of information. Anybody that's missed it, I think there's a court case in December that's leading to this conversation. I think it's the clubs you mentioned there. The chairman that's representing all the clubs in Europe, they feel that UEFA's got a stronghold over everybody they wish they have. Now, Peter Lawwell's on that group, so he would be the one that was, well, amongst others that was trying to negotiate this thing, this kind of peace treaty, and see what's malleable, what's not malleable about it. So I think it's no surprise that Celtic and Rangers have been mentioned as clubs that would kind of sell this to TV audiences and things like that. I think AC Milan, Barcelona, Real Madrid, as you said, they're superpowers, especially Real Madrid and Barcelona. I agree with you. I wouldn't want to see Celtic jump into something in 3-4 years' time it collapsed like the banks collapsed. I mean, if banks can collapse, football contracts can collapse, and we could end up in a quagmire. You know what I mean? But I would like to think anything that involved Madrid for me is the pinnacle of football. That is the elite. There's no bigger or better place than Real Madrid. Do you know what I mean? I think if they're involved in something, that you're talking serious people are going to be involved with that, and that also brings their lawyers, whatever you want to call it, they're people who make decisions. They'll be on 24 hours a day, making sure this is ironclad or at least long term to the point where I think that domestic football might be the new European football for Celtic, where it's maybe something that we maybe don't participate in, or maybe there's an avenue for us to play a string team. Personally, I think our football, our board, SPFL, SFA, I think they're run with absolute numpties. I think they'd be that daft if it collapsed after 3 years, they'd let it back in. But as you said, if we had a 100,000 seater stadium tied in with a £500 million loan deal for some bank in America somewhere, we would have stuck with that payment. I mean, we would be fucked. But I like to think that if it gets as far as an actual proposal on the table. Now, listen, let's get one thing right before any Celtic fans would suggest that it's not anything we're interested in. We don't like the EPL, none of us do, but we don't like it because we're not invited. I would happily. I hate English football, but I don't like the party because I'm not invited, boys. I would like to be doing it in a fucking heartbeat. So would you, and so would Phil, right? As much as we don't like it. So see if we did get invited to this league, see all your reservations and all your political beliefs about all these Russian oligarchs that are pumping money into Chelsea. See if they come chatting on your door and saying, all right, we've always thought you have been a big power. Just knowing the league that we can really get interested in. But see this, you've just piqued my interest. If Alpha Head can buy Fulham and bring him into the Premier League for 5-6 years, somebody like that can pique Celtic's interest and buy out Desmond and things like that, and that would get Celtic fans on board. See, so if somebody who we find distasteful, like the guy who took over Newcastle, should rock up at our door in a gold helicopter, we'd let him in. You know what I mean? And we'd be all happy about it. You know what I mean? And I think just to answer your point, boys, I totally think that it would be a gamble for Celtic. Of course it would, but I just like to think that if we were asked a question, I think if it got as far as that, there'd be a lot of ironclad guarantees as such as you can do in business. If it's coming from the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid and AC Milan, I mean, they're as big as anybody in Italy. So you'd like to think that these teams carry a lot of clout, I think it'd be a success. I really do.
Well, this is the thing. We're not debating for anyone in the comments about Celtic and Rangers going to the EPL. We're saying that hypothetically because it was obviously a conversation that was had before. What we're saying right now, tonight, it has been reported that the clubs that are still involved in trying to force this European Super League are now putting admiring glances and are maybe having, favourable conversations about the prospect of inviting both Celtic and Rangers. That's how we're talking about this. Now, this is far from being a reality, Phil. But in terms of, I think we said off air, a good hypothetical conversation, it's brilliant to hear people's views. Now, there's a lot of the soul coming out in the comments right now. No,
I spotted that.
I did.
But this is the thing. Right now, Celtic is in a league where the gamble for them to move to a European Super League, it might not require a Saudi businessman, a Qatari. Mark's just saying, because Celtic's that big, if you're drawn to Newcastle, haven't won a trophy in 60 years, they'd be drawn to Celtic if they were in a far bigger league of more appeal. That's the conversation.
Yeah.
But even without these big takeovers, whatever money would be involved in some sort of European Super League would be vast. Now, I push back on anyone telling me, Phil, and this ties into the weekend, because you cannot have it both ways. You cannot be coming into the chat. I don't mean our chat on the bus. I mean, into your chat when you're talking about Celtic, your pals in the pub, whatever, bitching and moaning and saying there's been 130 years of cheating in this country. And then tell me, but our heart belongs in that league. Does it? Because we don't.
We don't want us either, mate.
So that argument just you can't. I don't understand this both sides. And what I will say as well, if you're just proper looking at this as business, right? Celtic's loss is very, very minimal. They've fuck all to lose in leaving a league that is paying £2.5 million like a season for TV money. Then we would have got that for a win in the Champions League. So what would it be if you were in a European Super League? Your TV deal, that alone. I mean, these are this is just simple numbers. You just crunch them and go, right, you would need to take the chance. Of course you would. Just before I come at you, Phil, on that, Jimmy! Yes, mate. New YouTube.
Yes, Jimmy.
I appreciate it, my man. Thank you very much. Keeping the bus running. Love that, mate.
Indeed.
So, Phil, this is the thing with these things. I appreciate there is so much to, Celtic's history that we're fond of, but there's so much to Celtic's history that's been dictated to by the league and the competitions we operate in.
Aye.
And this is the same people telling me these opinions. The same people that are so you can't say we live in an unfair bias competition, every domestic competition, and then tell me, but we can't leave them because we've got to be loyal. Loyal to what? That's what I don't understand. And the prospect of Celtic being invited or being in consideration. Now, I don't want to sound either like I'm contradicting myself, like, oh, Real Madrid have seen a Celtic postcard and want us to come in on that nonsense.
Tony Cruz said he loved the atmosphere.
Aye, and now I'm getting all giddy because Real Madrid might be winking at us, that would be contradictory on my part. But playing them twice a season, every season, and then sandwiched in between Real Madrid away is Milan at home, and then a Glasgow derby the following week. Fucking sounds all right to me, like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not us laughing and trying to down talk the league we're in terms of the other clubs. We'll down talk the folk who run it till the cows come home. That's fine. But the other clubs that are in it, unfortunately, don't tickle our balls enough. It's that simple. That's what it comes down to. They're not stimulating Celtic as a club. Celtic has become a sleeping giant, right? Yep. But giants only sleep for so long before they just become sleeping, right? And no longer a giant because they've been sleeping that long. Celtic's in that sort of vortex right now where 7 defeats at home, just got arrested by a 1-1 draw at home at Shakhtar. 2 points from 15 in the Champions League. We're celebrating his progress.
Aye.
See, when you start looking at it, you're going, we're falling behind in front of our eyes because this right now has been, I've been told, the most exciting Celtic team in 20 years. Yet we can only get 2 points in the Champions League right now. Now, that's not all on Ange. Far from it. It's not on the players. Far from it. They've came in for £1 million for here, 2 million quid for there. But, Phil, this Celtic team, this club, could do so much more if they were getting year on year some sort of parity in terms of, as I say, examples like that Bournemouth one.
I'm glad you used the word progress there because that's a word I've seen a lot this week. And after what happened on Tuesday night, drop out of the Champions League, I've seen terms we'll learn from this. I've, of course, seen the famous trust the process and that we are making progress. But I'll tell you what a European Super League would do in a hypothetical situation, right? See when players are signing these 5-year deals that we are so happy that they're doing, they would actually see it out, or there's a good chance they would. Because see, at the moment, we're just signing them for that to protect our assets, right? Because we went out on Tuesday night. I said to my dad, I said, right, a lot of fans on Twitter right away are saying we'll learn from this and next year we'll come back better and stronger and talk about this whole trust process. Fine, well, what if in a year's time, some of the players who are here just now aren't here? Does the process reset itself when we sign 5 or 6 new players? How does the process work exactly? I think if we were playing a higher standard of team every week in a hypothetical situation, of course, we must stress that we're talking about these players that are coming and signing 5 and 6 year deals are coming to play at Celtic for 5 years or so. It's not going to be 2 years and then they're off ski. I say, look at what we're in, the situation we're in just now. We get a wee nibble of it in the Champions League, and then we're going back to playing, say, Motherwells and St Mirren's and so on.
With VAR that hates us. Like,
well, evidently, yes. After we saw that.
It's hard to keep these players to keep these players as Phil saying, you bring them in, right, boys, for 5-year contracts, you promise them the world, promise them the next big move, etc. Once they get to their second season, they've been to Ibrox 4 times, they've been to Pittodrie 5-6 times, and they've enjoyed it. They start looking at the fence. They want to see what else is out there. To see if we're competing against the best and we're amongst the best, we start to have that base level of a certain standard at which we can then build on. Now, I've got a feeling that Hatate is just playing too good just now. I feel like we might just see this season with Hatate, maybe get one more season out of Jota because of his injuries. But this is what happens. We get 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years maximum, and then we need to build again. And then we need to build again. You see, if we had, for talking sake, a Carter Vickers for 5, 6 years, 7 years, we could build a defence around that and just add and add and add our quality. It's very hard to keep our best players when you know they are signed on the premise to make the next step. If we're buying players that are almost at the level we want to be at, but we know we're going to get them long term, that just gives us a right good chance to build a team, build a squad.
Yeah.
I mean, gone are the days that we're going to have a top quality player for any longevity. It's 2 years. So we'll see if we're in this league, we can start being a serious contender within that league and build. We'll never build with our structure because our structure is set up to bring them in, get a good 2 years with them and sell. Then start again and start again, start again. Now, if our philosophy changes into, okay, for the starting point, it might be a journey, but we're going to go on a long process of just building and building and building. You watch this club grow into a monster. But anybody that's sceptical understand, but if anybody that's against it, it's only because the reality hasn't came to them yet. If the reality was, next season we're starting this, we've got 20 games, 10 at home, 10 away. 2 of the games are against Real Madrid, 2 are at Barcelona, 2 are against Rangers, 2 are against
What are we talking about here? Eh?
I mean, that would be, and then for talk's sake, I'm gonna give you something that'll blow your mind. See when PSG 2 years ago were coaxing Lionel Messi to spend his last 2 or 3 years at them. So see if we're at that table, we've got a chance of plucking the greatest player that's ever played football to us for 2 years. I mean, if that doesn't tickle your fancy, if that doesn't tickle your ball, nothing will. I mean, I mean, God, I watched the Pride of Britain Awards.
Everyone's balls are getting tickled tonight.
It really is.
See if we manage to structure a deal like that. See the Pride of Britain. I would get to the chairman who structured that deal to get Celtic into a thing like that. I would love it. As much as I don't rate European football for us as a club just now, it's because of all these caveats I put on it about now. Give us parity, and I'm all in. I am all in. And anybody that's got doubts, I understand it. But I tell you something. See, kind of a trip to Benfica on a Sunday is a lot more sexy than got a fucking Cowden beef or something like that in the Scottish Cup. You know what I mean? It's so hypothetical, but I'd be all in. I'd be all in.
I think you raise a lot of great points there because one thing I'm going to say, where is this loyalty coming from to our league? I don't like. I can't tell you enough. Right, we were one of the rare pods. I would say maybe there was a few others, but we literally called it as it was. We said there is bias in the decision making process that happened at Tynecastle, right? And there was. There's no getting away from it. We were then getting a lot of feedback saying this has went on for over 100 years. This has went on for, particularly EBT's people started talking about it again. Cheating years, asterisk years, all this stuff. It brought it all back to light. I don't understand now where if we were offered to play the clubs Mark's just listed there, for example, on a week-to-week basis, what loyalty do we owe these fuckers?
None.
This is what I don't get. I think I'll be completely honest with you. I think the problem would be it wouldn't just be Celtic invited, and people don't like the notion we'd be going in at the same time as the Ugly Sister. Well, I'm sorry, but that's the club we support. Wanted the Ugly Sister attached to us. Again, these are uncomfortable truths, but it's facts. The reason the Ugly Sister would even be in the conversation is because Celtic let them back in. We still support Celtic, right? But all the criticisms we've given over our league, over our officials, over the authorities, we've supported in our lifetime, guys. We've supported a team playing in a competition where the SFA chief executive was sacked because he cheated, because he literally stopped to sign in George Cadetti. He was then proven in a court of law that he did that untowardly. It was it was blatant cheating. Yet, you want me to suddenly feel guilty if Real Madrid, AC Milan, etc., come calling and say, "Would you be up for this?" if this comes, Colin, come on.
We've been trying since Dermot Desmond raised the point, I think it was 2000, about trying to get to the EPL because similarly there was a big meeting at the time. Every Celtic fan has been fucking putting their hat in the ring to try and get us in England. It's the same thing. We're still leaving Scotland. Where is England or where it be a European league? Now, what pissed a few people in England off was because these mainstays were going to be leaving the EPL. Right, and that just caused a major backlash. It's quite ironic considering that a league that was built on fake money was annoyed at the fact there's going to be more fake money going into football. But we all want it to Scotland. If every Celtic fan says we're held back by playing Inverness Callies and playing Aberdeens, so what do you want? Do you want us to be a big fish in a wee saucer, or do you want it to be a big fish in an ocean or a big fish? Because I tell you something, we've got the potential. See our structure. You could pick us up and drop us into any league in the world. We could get the APL with our structure. The playing staff would let us do it for a couple of years, but our infrastructure is certain we could be picked up and just you couldn't do that to Newcastle. I don't think yet, or a Burnley or something. But you mentioned there's a lot of big teams that have collapsed. Well, look at Nottingham Forest. They won 2 European Cups. Look at them now. For no growing on their potential. Aston Villa's another one who just were happy just to float on and cruise on and see what happens.
Aye.
We've got the potential to be as big as almost anybody.
Yep.
If that happens in my lifetime, I tell you something, I wouldn't mind sitting in my seat on a Saturday afternoon and the Galacticos walk out. Because you're something I want them to say to their fans, oh, brilliant, we've got to Glasgow. No, because I'm excited to get selfies at Celtic Park because I know this is going to be a do or die match in a league against one of our rivals. That's what I want to see. I want to see players come to our stadium for important matches and they're excited about it, because they're in for a fucking right good tussle, not because they're coming up for a party and some selfies and a bucket list match.
So I'm going to go back to another aspect of this because I think this is one of the issues, right? See, like business has to evolve all the time, right? Celtic is a business at the end of the day. Now they were founded though on charity, right? And we get that to be a charity, and the Celtic Foundation still does a hell of a lot of work. Anyone who thinks this changes them because of that is really missing the point. There's loads of comments. I think Monty's sort of triggered it, and people are saying, you know, all that money, we should be putting that towards charity. Listen. Look at Man City. See, for all of Man City's grubby money, maybe it might be, right, and all that. See the money that's went in there. Do you know what they do for their surrounding neighbourhoods, for their local charities? It's mental. I know the tour guide at Man City, and he's like, folk don't know what they've done for Manchester.
Yeah.
Right? I know the tour guide at Man City, and he's like, this club does so much, and it's not just football related. It's way beyond that. That would only be times by 10 what the good Celtic already do. Times by 10, if not
Everything
more.
grows with it. Everything goes with it.
We would not lose any of these routes. The ethos don't have to change. It's just the teams you're playing change. And I don't understand where this loyalty comes for being a club, for a start, competitively wise. When Mark's talking about Cowden beats and Scottish Cups, I think your point was more accurate, Mark, when you said Motherwell 5 times a season. Go just tell me how that becomes then 10 times in the first 2 seasons Jota's at the club. And you tell me how they've not got a right to go.
Yeah.
I'm a bit bored. If these bigger clubs come to us, Phil, right? This is not us being us losing our soul. It's not about that. We're going, sport is getting taken to a different dimension because we're playing competitively week in, week out against the very, very best. And we believe, and we've always argued this. So don't shit the bed now, because we've always argued we could compete against the very best if we had that infrastructure that they did, or that sort of revenue that they did from things like TV deals. Now, with that in mind, Phil, do you think, despite us maybe backing it right now, it would get the universal support from the fans?
Oh, that is a $6 million question. Well, fan base. It's a tough one because I see many of the comments go up there and I understand where they're coming from. I don't think it would get the universal support from the majority of the fan base. It would take a while, I think, to convince them. And if it could be convinced, I think it's a tough one with Celtic, with the way our teams, the roots that we're grounded in, and a lot of our fans' ethos. I think it's a tough sell for them.
But
But what you said made perfect sense. Everything would get bigger, but I think there'd be a lot of fans that wouldn't see that. It would be like pure tunnel vision.
Well, see the minute. See if we signed the deal on the Monday and then Tuesday morning we woke up and it was like, see that left winger that destroyed Juranovic. Celtic, I put a £45 million bid in for him. He's flying in on Wednesday. See that scepticism about joining the league? That starts to water down, mate. You know what I mean? And then Courtois being tipped to replace Joe Hart. You know what I mean? believe you me, mate. The reality, the realism would kick in the very minute it became real. And you know something? See, after one match, it might be, as you say, there will be. I don't think Celtic could please every anytime. You know what I mean? There's always somebody, but quite especially me. But see, but that just shows you, mate. That just shows you that. I think it just shows you how hard the task is. I understand, right? But it's because it's hypothetical that it's like a throwaway opinion you've got just now. I understand that, but as Russell says, we've in a league, right? I'm just going to just indulge you for 1 minute here. We've been in a league here that I think hate the fact that the grass is green. They're disgusted by our presence. The fact that we go there and win, they hate it. And that's Hearts, that's Dundee, that's Kilmarnock, that's a lot of them. They boo our players with, and they spit and they foam out the mouth when they see us. What do we owe them? Jim Farry, boys who mentioned there, right? A guy fun guilty, a referee gets sacked or forced to resign because another referee grassed him in for trying to cheat Celtic out a penalty. That's just happening. You'd Tiny Wharton in the day, Dean Mason's handshakes to John Gregg. You get referees
Dallas emails.
You Dallas emails about Catholics. We get referees just now doing private functions with Mark Hateley and orange sash bash events down in Blackpool. This is what we're coming. This is what we're living in, right? Now all that just dissipates. See, when Rangers have got no hold of the authorities, right? And I'm going to be honest, I've said it, right? They're out to cheat Celtic. I don't care if I'm clipped, right? They're out to cheat Celtic. Celtic play, as I said hard, Celtic play 12 men every week. Now it's 13, right? We'll get used to that. We'll find a way. We always find a way, right? But all that disappears. See, their stranglehold over Celtic and over the league would be null and void. There would be another fish in the water. Nobody else, right? So see this kind of fake loving we've got with Scottish football all of a sudden because something like that would come in the corner. That would just disappear and all. We all want out of Scotland. Everyone is. My dad mentions it every phone call. I phone my dad every day and he says to me, I can't wait to go to fucking Scottish football because they'll have nobody else to hate. And he's fucking right. Because when we go and that scepticism disappears the minute Lionel Messi says, I fancy 2 years playing in front of that fan base. I fancy that.
Someone of that ilk, aye. Totally, man.
And that would be a reality, boys. We could offer somebody £300.
Aye. We could financially
What's us back? Why would you choose a Man City who's cash rich over Celtic who's no cash rich? The cash. No. Give parity there of some element, of some degree. That becomes a question.
Bring it on. But I mean, obviously, the thing is commercially, I think this is what people are forgetting here. Commercially, people seem to think this is selling your soul. Scottish football sold its soul. It sold its soul the most ever. Only 10 years ago, we know all this stuff, right? We know all this. So I'm not going to sit and lecture everyone on, use your noggin here. Like the league or the Football Association you swear your allegiance to, I can't believe are the same people I've been conversing with over the last week after VAR. It's so fucking there and there. It's mental. See, to me, if that ASL thing does become some form of reality, you'd walk and you don't fucking look back. And you go play with the big boys and you get not just bloody noses, you get black eyes, you get a lot of them. But you know what? See, at the end of each year, you're going to pick up a big fat paycheck from TV revenue. It doesn't need to be a chic Mansour. Do you know, getting that guy who runs Celtic right now, I think it might pique his interest, and he's got a few
Aye.
bob to spend. Right? Desmond might just become a big player as well if he starts thinking Celtic are in what league now? I think he might be quite keen to push Celtic into that. So all this stuff about, we've got a sheik now and all that, that's all conjecture. That's now. And obviously we're speculating about the league in the first place, but joining the league isn't a prerequisite that you need a Russian owner. It's not how that works. So Celtic wouldn't be selling their soul to the devil, in my opinion, if their sporting competition increased tenfold. If they're then, on the back of that, they earn and fairly earn TV money for rights across the globe to see our brilliant football club play football week in, week out against the best. It would be brilliant revenue if we had a stadium that was now 80, 90,000 because the crazy interest it caused.
Well, can you imagine, boys? Can you imagine, right, our fan base, if Celtic grew a conscience and said no, but Rangers said aye. Rangers are playing Real Madrid the Tuesday, and we're 30 points ahead of Aberdeen in the league. You imagine, I tell you something, that's when you see bedwetters. And do you know something? Let's be honest, let's be totally fucking honest, right? There's not one Celtic fan really, if they was being serious, right, that would turn that offer down. Why would you turn that offer down? I mean, and by the way, there is no danger Rangers would.
They would go.
Imagine you said that, you said no.
But I get what you're saying, but I just think from our point of view, I think we're being a wee bit, not us. I think in the comments, everyone's getting a wee bit pure about all this. Like, this is sport. Forget the money. Forget the TV money, by the way, what comes as a reward for competing in the best competitions. Oh, we don't want that because what? Why do you not want it? Because we're Celtic and we just need to be, do you know what? We should never have Henrik Larsson on 40 grand a week then. Because that's obviously, disgusting. I'm sorry, but this is the way it works. Football is moving on. The sport that we love, whether we like it or whether we don't, now pays players on crazy money. None of us can fathom, but it's the reality. Yep. But you can't have it both ways. And again, we're wanting to stay in the league that we feel cheats us. We want to pay players nowhere near what the going rate is in Europe because we're Celtic. What do you want? I tell you what, it comes down to, lads, and it's going to come back down to the argument I've always made. There is a coziness, a comfiness, a blanket of winning trebles and being better than Rangers. People don't want to admit it. They see lifting a CIS Cup or whatever it's called now. That tickles their balls. See, for me, personally, the thought of being in a relegation battle in ESL or whatever, but it's because we're playing the best week in, week out and watching the quality on display, the players we're linked with, that excites me big time. Seeing Celtic, first and foremost, through my Celtic tinted glasses, the thought of them becoming what this club really could become if it was parity across the board. Across the board.
That's Celtic. That's Celtic. I mean,
but it's like we're huge, and we have literally hamstrung in our own country by a lot of crazy decisions, hamstrung in Europe because the competition when we get these crazy decisions against us is crap, and yet we'll keep celebrating. Hey, we beat Kelly 2-0. Like, if that is all you want, I think the world's moving on. I'm sorry, I think it's evolving right now. There is going to be change in football. My advice would be, if you could get your head around it, take a back seat. I think you can get involved. And I think Mark's right. I think if the reality was in front of you that the talks have been done in Celtic, there's a photo of Celtic, a table with, I think we'd all start having our balls tickled. Anyway, before we go any further, we're going to round off the show. I know I've not kept you in a while, Phil. We're going to go back to Kearney because it's time for the judge. Mark Henry, there's a story circulating, mate, which I know has piqued your interest. Celtic are potentially now going to be doing a fourth kit this season. Now, hey, I hope the comments are lively here because it goes against my ethos as a club, I would say. 4 kits in an absolute, a cost of living crisis. Well, it looks like our club's about to do that. So let alone jump in leagues, 4 kits in one season. I wonder what the reasons could be for that. What do you make of that, Judge Kearney?
Well, I think it's strangling parents and Celtic fans to death, boys. Saying, I mean, in a time, we're not even hit November yet, and there's stories circulating that it's a 4th strip for the club. And I mean, don't forget, a lot of people were slagging Rangers for doing this the last 2 seasons. You know what I mean? Calling it money grabbers and calling it desperate for cash. I think it's turned into an absolute disgrace the way football clubs are bleeding their fans dry. I mean, tickets and free strips, I think it's enough anyway. But the amount of strips for me isn't the issue. It's just the greed that comes with it. You know what I mean? There's no plausible reason why we need a 4th strip. Paul's got a good theory on it, which I'll let him speak about. He fought with it. It's quite a good point. But I think Celtic itself are they're abusing their fan base by doing this. You know what I mean? By even considering this. I think 4 strips, I mean, you get 3 or 4 kids, or even just a single guy or a woman buying these strips. I mean, it's constant, boys. I mean, you've had about 10 different tracksuits out already. These 3 strips out by the end of September. That's on top of your Champions League tickets. That's on top of your season tickets, top of your away tickets. And it's a very expensive game. And do you know something? And see, kids want. And see if it comes to Christmas and there's a 4th strip, no matter how many kits are just bought, new year in to buy them another one. I think the club know that. I mean, talking about, as you said, they're going against the ethos of the club. Is that in keeping with the club's ethos, like being a massive club, but also try to be a community club and try to be a kind of man of the people? It doesn't strike to me. It sounds to me like something that our Tory board would do. You know what I mean? And I just don't like it. Maybe it's Adidas. Maybe Adidas are the ones that are pushing this. It sounds like it could be. I heard rumours that it could be a kind of yellow and green kind of Australian themed strip. That would just tickle the balls of everybody I've seen on Twitter. It'd be this.
Now, Judge Kearney, you're not suggesting this kit could be released in time for a homecoming tour of some sort, are you? You're not suggesting. Come on, Judge Kearney, you're meant to be impartial.
Oh, of course. Do you know one thing I am not as a cynic, mate? I am not cynical in any way. But if I was a cynic, I would suggest that they're ripping the arse right out of it, mate. You know what I mean? I mean, we've all seen that Ange Postecoglou, not the Ange Postecoglou, but the Celtic DVD, should I call it? They came out the other day there. If anybody's not seen it, it's not what you think it's going to be. It's an Ange Postecoglou biography, but it's a good watch. I think Russell turned to off. But all coming into this ethos of the club, I'm glad you mentioned that word, boys. I mean, you can't have it both ways. The same folk who are suggesting that Celtic are selling their soul would be happy for Celtic to bring this 4th kit out. And just quickly on selling their soul, we're advertising on the front of your strip is a gambling website. People lose their livelihoods, their lives, some of them. See behind it, under your hero's name, under your anniversary's name, or sorry, above it, is got a cider, a drink, alcohol maker. People lose family members. People struggle with the effects of alcohol. Football lost its soul a very long time ago, mate. Very, very long time ago. But we're in a privileged position. We don't need to worry about that. We worry about the 11 men on the park. You know what I mean? So we'll put all that aside. I just think the clubs can do a bad route. I was a bit distraught when Man U went down the route in the first place of bringing out 3 kits all the years ago. I think they were the first to do it. I didn't think Celtic would go down that route, and they were talking 4 kits. Boys, I don't know if you watch the NFL, but see, you watch that, mate. Sometimes you see the same team with like 10 different strips, so you can't work out who's who. What's that? What's happening? Is that going to be next? We're going to have a Kilmarnock kit. We're going to have a St Mirren kit, a Dundee kit. Is every away match going to be a different kit? Is that what's coming? That's what I'm going to say on it, boys.
I think the judge. I will now go to the jury. Phil, he talks a lot of sense. I mean, it's brilliant to talk about the ethos and Celtic's soul. Now we're talking about that. I mean, he's right. Dafabet is on the front. Dafabet. Has anyone looked into that company's history? Has anyone looked into the security camera, media partnership deal that we've got? Of people that invade human rights and stuff like that. Yeah, it's one of our partners. The soul might not quite be there already. A sporting competition we were talking about, but this 4th kit nonsense, Phil. I mean, hopefully it's just pure speculation. Yeah. But I really would. See, for me, the obvious thing was in the summer, I think we discussed it on the bus, would be the away kit. I thought this year it was an open goal. Just do an Adidas one, like an Australia kit, an Australia home kit, because the Aussies will lap it up. The homecoming tour, we already knew about that last season, remember? So I was like, it all fits in. If the fourth kit comes out in the timing, we fear it, right? If the story's true, again, another hypothetical conversation tonight. But if there is a fourth kit and it does turn out to be what we predicted on the bus 3, 4, 5 months ago, that it would be in the Australia colours, and it's all based around selling more kits for the homecoming tour, where does that fit into Celtic's ethos and soulful? Because I'm struggling to find it.
That seems to have been the hot topic tonight, talking about Celtic's ethos and their grounding and so forth, because
you can tie it up in knots, mate. You can tie it up in knots. That's the thing, and it's good back and forward, by the way. Nothing's personal. Anyone in the comments. I appreciate everyone's point of view. As you all know, we can all agree some weeks, we disagree some. That's what the bus is about. Sorry,
it's debate. It's all about debate, isn't it? Well, my first thought, and Mark alluded to it earlier on when you mentioned this, was they've realised with the kit clash at St Mirren the other week that we need another kit to get around that, because we need to play St Mirren and Paisley in the second half of the season, because we've played them away. We've got a home game with them, then the next fixture will be away. But of course, instead of doing what they did a few years ago, where we had some similar issues with Hibs, where we just played in a Adidas kit from the season before, or a New Balance kit when we were sponsored by New Balance. Obviously, there's money to be made. Celtic is a business. Our board obviously are always thinking about money. And as you say, there's a good chance that if this is true, and it comes out, it will be yellow and green. There's a very good chance. But yeah, it's convenient as well that we probably need another away kit to avoid that fiasco at St Mirren when we go to play them next time. So wouldn't be surprised if they thought about that and been like, we need another kit. Wait a minute, I know what we'll do. Oh, this all comes together nicely. So, and as for the whole, like, Mark, you're spot on about the betting on the front of the shirt. And I know that fans have got the option, obviously, to buy a shirt without Dafa Bet on it or without Magnus on it. And that's cool. But see, at the end of the day, it's still the club's official sponsor. So you can buy a shirt without Dafa Bet on it. Brilliant. That's
players wear it, you know what I mean?
But it's still officially, signed a deal with the club. This is still a company that's pumping money into the club. So, yeah, just not having it on your own personal shirt that you've bought, it's still,
I wonder, Phil, I guess £5 more expensive to buy a sponsorless kit. I wonder if that £5 is some sort of compensation fee to the sponsor.
Oh,
it's more expensive. It's not the same.
That's mental.
It's £5 a dealer, boys. Aye.
No.
So I wonder if that £5 a compensation deal or it's and they only make so many of them, by the way.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
I am almost convinced of that. I wish somebody would please check out while we're still alive. I'm almost convinced that
I'll take it too far, mate.
I'm pretty sure it's £5 more expensive, mate. Honestly, I mean,
Celtic superstar.
All right, us as fans have got an option not to have one, but the players haven't. So when you see your heroes walk out with their strips on, that bet's blazing to the tap it. I mean, my wife, she works for the bookies, so I've not got a problem with gambling but it ruins a lot of people's lives and it goes against the ethos of the club. Michael Kelly took a lot of stick for Celtic fans, but he was, for the very early days, he was all the way, but a few dodgy things he did in his life. He was very against Celtic getting in bed with a lot of different alcohol sponsors and things like that. He was very much wanted Celtic to stick to their roots with some things.
Right.
Michael Kelly, and he took a lot of stick for that. People were saying he was holding the club back.
Because it was hampering our progression.
It was, and just something.
I get that. It's a double-edged sword, that, isn't it?
Aye. The same folk who were saying, grow up and let's move on, were probably the same folk who would complain about, remember Hearts 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they had like a payday loan sponsorship, which went doing like a lead balloon. They had to cancel that. The fans were raging about that. I'm against things like that, boys, saying that people are getting themselves into debt. I don't know if Phil's found an answer, am I right, Phil?
I have. The answer is they're the same price, but long sleeve shirts are £5 more, so maybe you had that in your head. But the sponsorless one is the same. £65 though for the home shirt right now.
Also the same price for sponsorless.
For the sponsorless one, but the away shirt is £5 more, so maybe that's where you were getting in your head.
So the long sleeve's
£5 more.
Okay.
You were still half right, Judge. You're never wrong. The judge is never
wrong. £5 was in
his
head. That's probably
I'm never wrong. I'm just mistaken.
But I tell you what, the thing is with these debates, right? See what it all comes down to is there is going to be differences in opinion across our support as to what the future holds for this football club. How do we get the best? Now, we all genuinely believe that the Champions League, for example, is somewhere we should be dining at year on year. We've just found out this year that even in a group that we all thought was favourable, every one of you did, we all did, we thought it was a decent draw. We're miles off it, but it's really tough. Even when you play well, you get beat 3-0 at home, right? We are suggesting tonight, if there was an opportunity to join a far healthier, firstly, sporting competition, the sport of football, it would be a healthier competition for a football club that has outgrown its domestic competition. Week on week, we could be playing against far more difficult sides. We'd probably learn some tough lessons, but we would grow. And I think the only way for Celtic to fulfill its potential is we're going to need to sometimes take a hit. Now, Red Scotland says it's not a debate, though. It's shit stirring to fill a void. I don't know if he's talking to me or not, but what I will say is the debate tonight is based on literally news articles. Like, I'll tell you the sources of both. So we're talking about the European Super League tonight because the Daily Record literally went with it as its main story around, I think it was 7 o'clock, guys. I tweeted, WhatsApped you guys the full article. So that's what that's based on. It's footyheadlines.co.uk. They seem to have the inside story on Celtic are going to do a fourth Adidas kit, albeit there's not much background to it. So it might.
But they're spot on, boys, see, with their kit stories normally, aren't they? Footy headlines.
So that's for the two. These are two headlines that have came out today. So to fill a podcast, you're saying that, but we'll always tackle Celtic stories. And what I always want to do on the bus is give the strong opinion on it. Give and by the way, agreeing and disagreeing is fine. Like I put on my tweet to promote the show tonight, disagree to disagree. Sometimes that's all good. Sometimes that's healthy. No one's right, no one's wrong. If you want my tuppence worth on it is sometimes you're gonna need to just sacrifice a wee bit of your principles and your morals if you want to see Celtic grow. If you want to keep all your principles and morals intact, then you're gonna need to go in a time machine 40 years ago. Because that time's already gone. That's highlighted by the sponsors we've currently got, for example, and the media partners, or not just media partners, so the commercial partners that we've got. Have a look at them because there's far more stories to dig into. We will leave it there. It's been a lively one. And by the way, I'm all for the debate. So thank you so much to each and every one of you who's got involved in the comments. We love all the debate on the Thursday Night Forum. That was what it's all about. It's a bit spicy, and we like that. Big thank you to Phil. Phil, you're back with nostalgia. Talk us through it.
Tomorrow we are doing the 2003-2004 season. Breaking news before we went on the air, Russell will not be joining me tomorrow night for it. He's schedule conflicts, unfortunately, have come up. But don't worry, we will have his brother Jonathan Boyce back on, so there will be a Boyce on the show. So there you go. That's Jonathan will be taking your seat, but it'll be me, Liam, and Jonathan. Yep, 03-04 season. Obviously, last week we did a very lively, a very long Seville episode, which was going to be a long one because it's the Seville season. We didn't really get much time to talk on the sort of sour ending to the season. It was kind of like a wee 3-minute, okay, this is what happened at the end. But obviously now, what went down in 2003. Celtic come back the next season. As we talked about, you do not make this Celtic team angry because they come roaring back with an absolute vengeance in 03-04. And of course, the other subplot to that season is it's Henrik Larsson's last season at Celtic. But don't worry, guys. He gives the club a year's notice that he's going to leave. So surely to God, they're going to find a good replacement for him in a year's time. You would think that, wouldn't you? But yeah, we'll be talking about that tomorrow night in the 03-04 season.
I think the one thing you can say about Henrik giving a year's notice, though, is his ethos and his morals were intact when he left. Good night.
Comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.